All right, so we're ready to jump into this mountain of research on habits,
Yeah.
especially all those really practical tips and tricks from Atomic Habits
Huh.
by James Clear.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's always working on their habits, trying to build better ones,
Right.
but it can feel like you're kind of banging your head against the wall
So
sometimes.
true.
And so today we're going to go a little bit deeper than just, what are habits and how they work,
Yeah.
and really try to get to the how do you make them stick? How do you make them last?
Mm-hmm.
How do you change your habits?
Well, and it's interesting because I think so often, we want these overnight transformations.
Right.
We're looking for that, lose 10 pounds in a week kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Give me the quick fix.
Yeah,
Do that.
exactly. And it just doesn't really work that way, right?
Right.
Like real change that lasts.
Yeah.
That comes from the tiny little actions that you're taking consistently day after day. It's like, compound interest or something.
Right.
Like a small investment you make might not seem like a lot
Right.
at the beginning, but over time, it can build up to something huge, right?
Exactly. And so even if you're not seeing immediate results,
Mm-hmm.
from your new, workout routine or your meditation practice
Yeah,
or whatever it is, doesn't mean that those efforts are wasted.
absolutely.
It's like all of that is sort of building up to that point where you break through. It's like, when you're practicing an instrument or learning a song on guitar
Yeah,
and you spend weeks just like feeling clumsy
yeah.
and all of a sudden your fingers just like flow across the frets.
Exactly. Yeah. James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential.
I love that.
And it's kind of like, how it's winter for so long and it seems like it's never going to end and then bam,
Right.
spring hits, So
Yeah.
all that groundwork was essential for the change that you see. But
Right.
here's where I think it gets really, really fascinating is that he argues it's not just about doing the action, it's about becoming the kind of person who does the action.
Okay, so instead of saying like I want to write a book,
Yeah,
I'm saying I am a writer.
right.
Does just changing how we talk about ourselves actually make a difference?
Well, I think it's about aligning your actions with your desired identity.
Okay.
So each time you sit down to write, even if it's just for 15 minutes,
Yeah.
you're casting a vote for your identity as a writer.
Okay.
And those small wins, they become evidence to support this new image that you have of yourself.
Interesting.
And it makes the habit stick more.
I get it. It's like when I started calling myself a runner,
Mm-hmm.
like all of a sudden, like putting on my shoes and hitting the pavement
Mhm.
felt less like a chore and more like, oh, this is just me doing what I do
Exactly.
because I'm a runner.
Precisely.
Right.
And this kind of brings us to the mechanics of how habits actually work.
Yeah.
And Atomic Habits breaks it down into what he calls the habit loop,
Okay.
which is cue, craving, response, and reward.
Okay.
And you can think of it like this. Your phone buzzes with a notification.
Cue?
That's the cue. You get this little hit of dopamine anticipating oh, maybe it's a fun message.
It's going to be good. It's going to be juicy.
Yeah, that's the craving.
Yeah.
And you pick up the phone and check it. That's the response.
Response.
And then, you're rewarded with this feeling of oh, I'm in the loop or,
Satisfaction.
whatever it is.
Oh, man, that's a perfect example because
Yeah.
even just like you saying that, I can hear my phone buzzing right now.
Right.
But I mean, seriously, understanding that loop
Yeah.
feels really crucial for actually being able to change our habits.
Yeah.
Because if we're just relying on willpower to
Yeah.
stop checking our phone constantly,
Yeah.
aren't we just setting ourselves up for failure?
You're absolutely right. Willpower is a finite resource.
Okay.
And so if we don't address that cue
Right.
or find a way to satisfy the craving in a different way,
Yeah.
that habit is just going to keep pulling us back in.
So how do we hack the loop to work for us?
Yeah.
So Clear gives us some really practical things like habit stacking and temptation bundling,
Right.
which honestly sound a little bit too good to be true.
Yeah, they're surprisingly simple, but they're very effective.
Okay.
So with habit stacking, you're basically linking your desired action to an existing habit.
Okay.
So for example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes.
Okay.
So you're leveraging that existing routine of making coffee
Yeah.
to trigger the new behavior.
That makes a lot of sense. But I will admit, sometimes even with stacking,
Mm-hmm.
getting myself to meditate feels like pulling teeth sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's where temptation bundling comes in, right?
Right.
Making that new habit more fun or more appealing.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you pair something you want to do with something that you need to do.
Okay.
So maybe you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast while you're working out.
Okay, so I could only watch my guilty pleasure reality TV show
Right.
while I'm folding laundry. There you go.
Okay. I might actually look forward to laundry day then.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it.
So it's about making those less than thrilling tasks
Yes,
more palatable.
more enjoyable.
Yeah. But there's another really powerful factor here that I think we often overlook,
What's
and
that?
that's our environment.
Oh, yeah. This is where Atomic Habits really kind of blew my mind
Yeah,
because we think that, like, we're in control of our actions,
totally.
but, like, our surroundings have a huge impact on our behavior.
Huge.
Way more than we realize.
Think about it. Like if your kitchen counter is always piled high with like tempting snacks,
Yeah.
how easy is it to resist grabbing one?
Not easy.
But if you replace those snacks with a bowl of fresh fruit,
Yeah.
suddenly like healthy choices become the easy option.
That's so true. And Clear gives that great example from the Amsterdam airport
Oh yeah.
where they reduced urinal spillage by like 80%
80%.
by just putting a little sticker of a housefly in each urinal.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible. It shows you the power of even the tiniest little visual cues to like
Yeah.
influence our actions.
I know. It makes me think about like what other tiny little changes can I make in my environment
Yeah.
to like support my goals?
Right. Are we designing our spaces in a way that's helping us succeed?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we inadvertently setting ourselves up for failure?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
This is making me think about like my home office.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like my productivity haven,
Right.
but it's also where I keep my video games.
Oh.
No wonder I get distracted.
Yeah.
But Atomic Habits also talks about like making bad habits harder,
Yeah.
not just good habits easier.
Right.
Isn't that kind of counterintuitive?
It might seem that way at first,
Yeah.
but think about like those apps that lock you out of social media
Yeah.
for a certain amount of time. Just that little bit of friction
Yeah.
can be enough to like break that cycle of, mindlessly scrolling.
So it's like putting your phone in a different room
Exactly.
when you're trying to focus.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. Exactly. Clairac calls these commitment devices.
Okay.
He tells this funny story about Victor Hugo,
Okay.
who, to meet a writing deadline, had his assistant lock away all of his clothes,
What?
except for this big shawl.
Wow.
So he couldn't go out.
You had no choice.
He had to write.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Maybe I need to hide my video game controllers or something.
there you go. But, Atomic Habits doesn't just focus on the start of the habit.
Yeah.
It's about making those habits satisfying enough to repeat,
Yes.
which I struggle with the delayed gratification.
Right? That's a very common challenge.
Yeah.
It's because our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. Like, what's more tempting, a sugary donut now
Yeah.
or the promise of fitting into your favorite jeans like 6 months from now?
The donut every time.
Yeah.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Right.
Like, how do we make those long-term goals feel as rewarding as that, like, instant sugar rush? Right. Well, one strategy is using a habit tracker,
Okay.
which is like such a simple but effective way to visualize your progress.
Yeah.
Every time you check off a box, it's like a little mini celebration.
It's like leveling up in a video game or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you see that visual representation of your progress, and it makes it feel more tangible, more real.
Yeah. And achievable.
Yeah.
So what about when motivation just isn't enough?
Mm-hmm.
Clear also talks about the power of social influence, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, we're social creatures.
Right.
And we are hugely influenced by the people around us. I mean, if all your friends are ordering pizza,
Yeah.
it's really hard to stick to your salad.
It's so true. It's
Yeah.
like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Totally.
So if I want to build healthier habits,
Right.
I need to be surrounding myself with people
Absolutely.
who are also trying to,
Who support those goals.
support those goals.
Yeah, find a workout buddy.
Yeah.
Join a book club. Right.
Share your goals with someone who will hold you accountable.
Yeah, just having someone else know
Exactly.
about your commitment can sometimes make all the difference.
It can make all the difference.
And Cleary even suggests creating a habit contract where
Yeah.
you make your commitments public and even add consequences for
Yeah.
not following through.
He got that idea from seatbelt loss.
Really?
Yeah, because, people resisted wearing seatbelts
Oh, interesting.
until fines were introduced. So sometimes that external pressure can really help reinforce our internal motivation.
I can see how that would work.
Yeah, it's like having a personal trainer there, like cheering you on.
Yeah.
It's like that extra layer of accountability.
But, I think something people get really hung up on
Yeah.
is this idea that there's one right way
Right.
to build habits.
Yeah. That's where that explore-exploit trade-off comes in.
What's that?
It's kind of like, you're trying to find the best coffee shop in town.
Okay. You kind of have to sample a few different places, explore right before you can like settle on your favorite.
Exploit.
Exactly. Habits are the same way.
So it's about finding what works best for you.
Yes.
That makes me think of Scott Adams, who created Dilbert.
Yeah.
He combined his drawing skills with his business experience to create this, like, totally unique niche.
Exactly.
He didn't just follow the traditional path.
Right. He carved out his own.
Yeah, and it worked for him.
Yeah. Atomic Habits isn't about giving you a formula.
Yeah.
It's about giving you the tools to create a system that aligns with your personality and your goals.
It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. Not every habit is going to be a perfect fit for every person.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Right.
You might eventually get it in there, but it's not going to be pretty.
Exactly.
So how do we know which habits are worth pursuing?
Right.
Like, how do we make sure they're actually, like, contributing to the life that we want to be living?
That's where it's so crucial to connect back to your values.
Okay.
Ask yourself, like, what kind of person do I want to be? What are the qualities that I admire in other people?
Yeah.
And are my current habits helping me become that person?
So it's not about just blindly adopting the habits of successful people.
Right.
It's about choosing the habits that resonate with, like, our core values.
Exactly.
Building a life that feels authentic and meaningful.
That's the heart of it.
Yeah.
That's really it. Like, it's not just about checking things off a to-do list. It's about crafting a life,
Yeah.
that really reflects who you are and who you want to be. And that brings us back to, like, one of the most powerful concepts in Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Which is that idea that lasting change starts with identity change.
Yeah, it seems like a really simple concept.
Right.
But it's so profound. Like,
it is.
We can force ourselves to, like, go through the motions.
Right.
But if we don't actually believe that we're capable of changing those new habits, they're just not going to stick.
Absolutely. It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand.
Yeah, exactly. It's like those New Year's resolutions.
Right.
We make them with the best of intentions.
Totally.
And then, like, 2 weeks later, we've totally abandoned them.
Right.
It's because we haven't shifted our underlying beliefs about ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to say, like, I'm going to eat healthier this year.
Right.
I need to actually believe that I am a healthy person.
Yes.
But how do we make that shift?
Yeah.
It feels like almost like faking it till you make it.
Well, it's not about faking it.
Okay.
It's about aligning your actions with your desired identity.
Okay.
So every time you choose the salad over the fries,
Yeah.
every time you lace up your running shoes instead of hitting the snooze button, you're casting a vote for that healthier version of yourself.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all connects. It's like that quote.
Yeah.
What we repeatedly do, excellence then, is not an act, but a habit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Building better habits isn't about, like, reaching some finish line. It's about embracing that process, the small wins, the stumbles along the way.
Yeah.
It's about becoming the kind of person who lives in alignment with their values day after day.
Wow. This has been so insightful.
I'm glad.
We've covered so much ground today.
We have.
But before we wrap up, are there any key takeaways that you want listeners to, like, walk away with?
Absolutely.
Something they can start doing right now.
First, remember that small changes consistently applied lead to big results.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of those tiny daily actions.
It's like that compound interest.
Yes, exactly.
Tiny little bits add up over time.
Second, focus on building an identity that supports your desired habits.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what kind of person does the things I want to do? And then start acting in alignment with that identity.
Each action's a vote.
It is.
I love that.
Third, make it obvious, attractive, and easy, and make your bad habits invisible, unattractive, and difficult. Design your environment to support your goals.
Yeah.
And use those strategies we talked about, like habit stacking, temptation bundling.
Making the good choices the easy choices.
Exactly.
And the less desirable choices a little bit harder.
A little less appealing.
Yeah.
And finally, remember to make those good habits satisfying.
Oh, okay.
Track your progress, celebrate your wins. Use rewards to reinforce that positive feedback loop. And above all, be patient with yourself.
This has been such a great deep dive into habits.
Thank you.
You know, it's not about being perfect overnight.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey, the stumbles, the triumphs, finding the joy in getting a little bit better every day.
So as you reflect on everything we've discussed today, I want to leave you with this question.
Okay.
Think of one small habit you can start today. Something manageable, something you can commit to.
Okay.
What would that one small action be that would cast a vote for the person you aspire to become?
That's a great question to ponder.
I hope so.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of habits.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, keep those positive changes rolling.